Okay, good afternoon. My name is Jocelyn Ross, and I'm with South Carolina Hands and Voices. And we partner with Beginnings SC to offer you Topic Tuesdays 2.0. And we have Jennifer and Lisa on with us from Beginnings, as well as our wonderful interpreter that we always appreciate having, Heather. And then we have two panelist members today that will be delivering our topic. Our main speaker today will be Taylor Sands, and she's a consumer engagement manager with Medell, and she has a vast background with speech pathology and auditory verbal educator. And she's coming with us today along with Melissa as another consumer engagement consultant with Medell to talk about resources with your child and their listening journey that's offered specifically to Hands and Voices. So we're tickled about that we get something for specific to our group that will help our families.
Just thank you again to the Hands and Voices of South Carolina group and South Carolina Beginnings for this invitation to be here today. As Jocelyn mentioned, I'm Taylor Sands and I'm a consumer engagement manager with Medell. I actually had the luxury of meeting Jocelyn probably about 7 or 8 years ago at an event in South Carolina in Columbia for children with hearing loss, and had the opportunity to invite her to be a part of Medell's Hear Peer community. So it's really nice today being here with a member of the Medell family, and then also being here with South Carolina Hands and Voices and Beginnings. So what's been really nice in the last few years is Medell and Hands and Voices have really been working together in collaboration because in so many ways we share very similar missions. If you look, Hands and Voices mission is dedicated to supporting families with children who are deaf and hard of hearing without a bias around communication modes or methodology. Hands and Voices is a parent-driven nonprofit organization providing families with resources, networks, and information they need to improve communication access and educational outcomes for their children. Our outreach activities, parent professional collaboration, and advocacy efforts are focused on enabling deaf and hard of hearing children to reach their highest potential. And again, this goes hand in hand with Medell's mission to help overcome the to overcome hearing loss as a barrier of communication to improve quality of life. And Medell does this by offering a portfolio of skin intact hearing solutions, including cochlear implants and bone conduction implants and a bone conduction hearing aid. But what you'll see is that we really have the same goal to improve quality of life, to support communication, and just really to change the lives of children and families who have a hearing loss. And because these missions are shared, we have been working in collaboration together. So I want to talk about a little bit about the Medell Consumer Engagement Program. We are part of a larger Medell team, but Melissa and I, who are here together, work on a team that we are committed to supporting families and adults throughout their entire cochlear implant journey. And what that looks like, it looks like before they would even receive any kind of hearing technology, as they are researching options for hearing aids or cochlear implants, we can get together with them. Here's a picture of a routine monthly meeting Medell host called Hear Peer Hangouts. And this is an opportunity for families to connect with other cochlear implant families and recipients and Medell staff to learn about hearing technology and resources available. We spend a lot of time on video calls. It's my friend Michael, helping families just really understand how a cochlear implant works, from the foundation all the way through the accessories. We support families during their cochlear implant journey. So this is a video of someone who is newly activated with their cochlear implant, receiving some additional support, making sure they're maximizing their equipment and understanding MED-EL's resources that are available. And one thing I do want to highlight in this photo is MED-EL offers a program called Unidos Oímos, which means Together We Hear. And this is a program, a bilingual program for Spanish-speaking families as well. And then we provide support and engage with families after they've become part of the MED-EL family. And the spotter picture is our Hear Peer community, which is a group of parents and MED-EL recipients that the ideas and the support everybody shares with each other is incredible. We were in an event the other night, and there was a mom of a pretty young, like 5-year-old child, newly implanted, but this family enjoys skiing, outdoor skiing. And they had the opportunity to ask other Hear Peers about how their teenagers were able to appreciate outdoor skiing, and ask how some of the adults were able to ski with cochlear implants. And it was just really neat to see that lifelong journey coming together. And we as engagement managers are happy to be a part of that. Part of the way we help families is before, during, and after are through collaborations like this with other organizations supporting those with hearing loss. So Hands and Voices and MED-EL came together a couple of years ago to truly make a difference in the lives of families. And it has a shared goal of equipping and empowering parents of newly identified children with hearing loss with an easy way to track and understand their child's development and communication. And again, if you think back to those mission slides, they both, with MED-EL and Hands and Voices, address communication. So MED-EL has created a poster that is called A Child's Journey. And I'll go in a little bit more, but it's broken up into areas to help both the guides by your sides and the families who have newly identified children understand maybe listening milestones that we would expect, sounds, making sounds, or what your therapist will call a lot of speech, understanding language, so that receptive language development, as well as using language, and that would be the expressive language development. And it's meant to be a poster that families can kind of hang in their play area, and when they're playing, kind of make observations of things that they're seeing their child do, so they can check those things off. But they can also kind of know where they're trying to go, knowing those next steps of a child's development. I used to do triathlons. It's kind of a weird analogy, but you're in the middle of the swimming part, and I know that I'm swimming. I'm making sure that, I'm breathing properly and have my stroke and my kick on cue and everything. But I also know that the next thing I'm going to do is hop on my bike. So I know where I'm going to ultimately get to the finish line after I run. And that's kind of what this is looking like. So some examples on this child's journey that you would track would be marking when a child turns to their name. That's a listening activity that happens through hearing and auditory access. Check. Something else would be that they're hearing and listening and understanding descriptive words. You can move on to making sounds. And again, you'll see it's broken up in all of these areas of what to expect by 1 year, by 1.5 years, 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, 3.5, and up to 4 years. So it's part of that journey to keep track of how everything's doing. So one of the examples on here would be a developmentally appropriate milestone that a child is trying to imitate words without being asked to. Check it off. And then you'll also see at certain points that we're expecting them to say sounds at the end of words most of the time. So a word like cup, early development, the sounds a child would say ka, but as they develop their speech skills, it would start to turn into a word like cup. And these are things that you can note on this child's journey. Understanding language. So again, that receptive vocabulary, receptive language sentences, etc. And what I do want to highlight, I know it's hard to see on this screen, is when we're looking at it, understanding language, we have examples here that are developmentally appropriate for both ASL and sign language and also spoken language. So again, back to that shared mission of Hands and Voices and MED-EL, really tracking language no matter which modality. So some of these milestones look like recognizing names and signs of family members, and also understanding basic who questions. And then you just track it as you see these coming along. This is awesome information for parents to be able to share with not only their guides by their sides, but also maybe early interventionists who are coming into the home. This is information that they can share with audiologists or speech language pathologists or teachers of the deaf. Information that could be shared with ENTs as we're monitoring a child's hearing loss. But I think the most important part of it is empowering parents to really know and have easily at their fingertips milestones to look for with their child. So this bottom part is, again, using language, highlighting different milestones. One of these would be when a child is using 3-word phrases or using 3 sign phrases. Once you see that happening frequently, check it off. And that's like a 2.5-year-old skill. And then getting to the point where we're hoping for a child to have about an 800-word expressive vocabulary, whether that's through signs or spoken language. Check. So here is what we've developed. It's this poster again called A Child's Journey. You can write in the child's name at the top. It's a free resource only available to Hands and Voices. And when I say it's available to Hands and Voices, anyone who is a volunteer can request this poster for themselves so that you have it and you can play around and you can see it. I don't have any children in my home, but I don't think you can see it with the background, but I have my own poster that I can keep easily out. And then what we really want is anytime you start with a new family and you connect with a new family, is introducing them to this poster so they can request their own free copy. And I'll give you a picture of the QR code in a moment that you can use to scan. But again, we want every volunteer or any professional or anybody associated with Hands and Voices to have this, but also with the main missions to get it in the hands of your families. We are in the process of working with some folks from Hands and Voices at the national level of organizing a workshop. And this workshop is going to be much more in depth, related specifically to this poster of what it means in terms of these developmental milestones, how to track it, and what to expect. So as soon as we have that date scheduled and finalized, which I'm hoping will be before the summer of this year, if not sooner, We would love for everyone to attend this. We want you to become very comfortable with this tool as you share it with families. Okay. And then another thing, this is Medel's first generation of a child's journey poster. This is also the first time that we have really introduced a resource like this specifically with a nonprofit organization. So we really want to learn from you guys as well. And any feedback that you have as you begin sharing this with families or using it, or feedback from the workshop, we want to take that so we can make changes to always make these sorts of resources more user-friendly and more appropriate. And any ideas that you guys bring, we welcome. We are collaborative partners. So I'm going to let this hang up here for a little while if you guys want to get out your phones. And I will make sure the South Carolina Hands and Voices group that's hosting this today and the South Carolina Beginnings can share this QR code with you as a follow-up. But scan this code if you have not received your own child's journey poster. And if we have any families on here today that newly identified, you're just learning about hearing loss, we would love for you to scan this code as well to request your own child's journey poster. So as I leave this up here for just a moment longer, I want to introduce my colleague, Melissa Harold. Melissa is a new consumer engagement manager with Medel. She's based out in San Diego, California, and is part of our West team. And she is going to really walk you through Medel's website and really thinking about it as a resource at all these different stages for families in understanding hearing loss, understanding technology, and understanding what to expect after receiving maybe a cochlear implant or a bone conduction implant. Again, that philosophy of before, during, and after, and how Medel supports those with hearing loss. So I'm going to take this off the screen and let Melissa start walking you through the Medel website.
Thank you, Taylor. I am thrilled to be here. For 16 years, I was in early intervention. I am a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. So supporting these families through this journey has been my passion from day one. So thank you so much for having us. And let's do some sharing. Taylor and I kind of spoke about this prior to our meeting today about, okay, let's share some resources. What do we find to be one of Medel's best resources to share with not only families, but possibly professionals and other, organizations working with individuals with hearing loss? And what we came up with was that our website is a resource full of resources. So let's start there. We often talk about this journey of hearing loss. Our website is able to meet individuals no matter where they are in their journey. So oftentimes we're working with families that maybe just find out that their child has a hearing loss. And they really only hear hearing loss and that's about it. So we want them to really fully understand what that hearing loss means and what their child is hearing. So if you go to Medel.com, you can see at the very top here, we have a few different pages. Our first one is really about hearing. So this is step one in the journey of finding out that you have a hearing loss and moving forward. You can see there's how hearing works. It goes through the different types of hearing loss. What I want to kind of focus on today is the audiogram. While in early intervention, I dealt a lot with families when they would get their hearing test back and they'd say, my child has a, mild loss or a moderate loss or whatever it may be. And they didn't really fully understand what that meant. because here these parents are, maybe hearing parents, trying to figure out what their child hears. So one resource on our website is one of my favorites, because what it will do is actually walk them through what it hears like, what it sounds like to have each different hearing loss. So I won't go through all of them with you guys, but I kind of wanted to demonstrate, and it should work. Typical hearing, you might hear a dog barking. So then a family finds out, okay, that's how I hear. My child might have a moderate hearing loss, or we'll say mild, so it's a little bit easier for us to hear. What does it sound like to have a mild hearing loss? Families can come to this and just listen to what it sounds like. So you can hear some of the sounds, but they're just much softer. I found that families will say, oh, my child has a mild loss or moderate loss, but they're responding to sounds they hear, because they're not fully understanding exactly what they hear. So I found coming to our website and using this is a great tool to help them fully understand what their child is hearing. Okay.
And Melissa,
Yes.
it's Taylor again. I would just like to add, it also, if you kind of scroll down, Melissa showed you the little links of how you could listen to the different types of hearing loss. But if you actually look at the visualization of the audiogram, you can see how parts of it are getting shaded out, kind of showing where different sounds might be affected based on those hearing losses as well. So it's kind of a nice visualization tool. So
that's a great point, Taylor. And because especially with speech sounds, you can see those speech sounds are shaded out. So when the child does start using some language, if they're not necessarily getting that P sound, you can kind of pay attention to this chart and say, are they hearing the P sound? First step in language is hearing it. So if they can't hear the sound, it's going to be very difficult to produce it. So good point. All right. So once we kind of figure out how hearing works, the type of hearing loss you have, and what exactly it sounds like, the next step in the journey is going to be your hearing solutions. Medell has a variety of implantable solutions to meet anyone's needs. But today I kind of wanted to click on cochlear implants and share a little bit about what we have here. But I encourage you guys all to come on here and kind of peruse the website and see all the different resources that we have. One thing I wanted to really point out is how everything works. This will go through the steps of getting an implant, how the implant works. But one thing I find extremely important is at the very bottom, we have our user stories. It is a scary time for a parent to think about choosing an implant and having their child go through surgery. So I have found that the best way to comfort them is for them to hear stories from others that have gone through it. So this is a great resource for them to come and listen to different stories about individuals that have gone through the implant process. And then right underneath that is something I really like to show families. It's their own journey, the steps of the journey for getting that implant. A lot of times they'll reach out to you and be connected with you as they're going through this assessment process. And it can be overwhelming. So I think having this as a roadmap to see, okay, this is where you're at and this is where you're going to go is really helpful for these families. And then the next step is you get activated. And then that's when after your implant, that next step of the journey starts. with our support. Taylor mentioned how we have consumer engagement managers. Herself and I kind of support these families throughout the whole journey. They also have you guys able to help them throughout this journey. But the next thing they can do is kind of come to this website. The way I see our support is kind of two different sections. We have our product support as well as our rehab support. So the first step is wearing your implant and making sure you're able to troubleshoot it and it's working properly, because we don't want to work on rehab stuff unless we know all of your equipment is working. So you're able to come to our website and go through a variety of troubleshooting tips and tricks on there, explains all the equipment, and it's really a great first step in figuring out what's going on with your equipment and becoming comfortable with your device. Then, when we have our device working properly, we can go to our rehab section. If you are working with families, this is a great place to come to get some free resources. We wanted to highlight the free resources that we have to you guys today. So within our website, if you go to the rehab section and you go to our rehab downloads, you can see that we have a variety of things that you are able to download for free to either share with your families or just have them come to our website and check it out themselves. Since most of us are working with children, one of the ones that I wanted to highlight was our Little Ears diary activities. Children learn best when they feel like they are in a safe environment with individuals that they know and trust. To me, what that's saying is parents are great teachers because children feel the most comfortable with them, as well as the home can be a great classroom because it's where they feel they're safest and most comfortable. But parents are often not trained to be teachers of the deaf or teachers in general, not meant to be speech language pathologists. So sometimes I struggle and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to communicate with my child. Maybe they have other children and they say, well, with that child, I talked and they understood. So it's nice to have some of these little activities laid out for them on what they can do. It doesn't require them to go to the store and buy a ton of things. It just gives suggestions on, oh, when you're doing laundry, try and do this. Or if you're cooking dinner, here's an activity you can do. What I like about these activities, and I highly recommend sharing them with your families, is that it makes therapy and learning fun, and it incorporates it into your everyday activities. Learning does not have to be sitting in a chair and working on flashcards. We want it to seem seamless for these families so that they can go about their day and everything that they do in their day becomes a learning activity. It becomes a listening and a speech, therapy session without them even noticing. So these are all, free downloadable resources that we have right on our website. Another thing that I wanted to point out was our blog. Our blog, we have a professional blog as well as one for families. And really, it's a great place to go for tips and tricks that, families can check out. Maybe there's one on, wearing glasses and a cochlear implant, or, wearing a mask these days and cochlear implants. And they're just articles written by, different recipients and professionals that kind of help guide us through different scenarios. So it's a great thing to check out. Finally, our last step in the journey, or support that we have in place, resource here, is that not only do we want to provide you with all these tools, we want to provide you with a community where you can ask questions, exchange ideas. And, Taylor mentioned it a little bit with our Here peers. And that's part of our community of individuals that have received cochlear implants or in the process possibly. And we have different hangouts and events where they can connect with others that have been through this process, that can share their experience, and they can really learn from each other. I find that talking with someone that has been in your shoes is the best way to kind of learn from what they've done. Finally, I'm just going to touch on My Medell because it is up here on our website. This is just a portal for the recipients to go and they have different things on there for their specific implant and stuff like that. So really what I wanted to talk about today was that this resource of our website is a resource with a ton of resources involved in it. So it's a great place to go no matter where you are on this hearing journey to support your families and individuals that have hearing loss. Okay.
Melissa, thank you so much for that. And, one thing I really appreciated about what Melissa put together today is that just in the world of the internet and in the world of so many tools out there, people will say, oh, go to the YouTube website. Oh, go to Amazon.com. Oh, go to the Medell website. But what she really did really nicely today is she took you to the Medell website, but really showed you specifically if you are looking for information about how hearing works, how to read an audiogram, you know where to find that specifically on the website. If you're seeking information specifically about Medell cochlear implant products and basic troubleshooting, where you can find that. If you're looking specifically for rehabilitation resources, where you can find that. And also with the community and engaging with other people. I hope that we, in general, we want to provide you with that kind of guidance from Medell, but I also really encourage you when you're helping your families with Hands and Voices and with beginnings of being more specific in which resources and websites you're sending families to, because the internet is an overwhelming and crazy place from time to time for all of us. So Melissa, thank you for that. And, for the sake of time, she really just picked a few resources here and there. But it is rich, full of different tools and things that I sometimes forget are there. And I've been with Medell for almost 9 years. So it's a great place and I hope you guys will use it. I just kind of want to close up today, our section, just by resharing this QR code. Like I said, I just think it's really awesome and important for us to remember how this is specifically part of Medell and Hands and Voices in collaboration together. This Child's Journey poster, which I highlighted, is only available to you guys as volunteers and also to the families on here. And I hope this will be something we're offering for you now and for many years ahead. So if you have any questions about today's presentation, you can reach out to either me or Melissa. Again, I don't think I really mentioned it when I introduced myself, but I am the Consumer Engagement Manager for the Southeast region, and I specifically support South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. So I am your go-to person in South Carolina, and it's been a privilege for many years. So, but Melissa obviously has such a passion and so much experience to pull from her days of early intervention in the schools as well. So if anything jumped out to you today, I know she would love to hear from you as well. So that's all we have. And again, just an abundance of gratitude to everybody who's offered us the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you so much, Taylor and Melissa, for that wonderful presentation. Very much excited about the opportunity being offered solely to our Hands and Voices families and volunteers. And I know personally as a parent, and having worked with beginnings, they often like to give a notebook to keep your notes and different resources. And so I like how this guide is a checklist, because that's one thing that could be found, but I've already received my poster and it comes nice and big. And I like that you can put it up and have a quick reference. And the piece about the collaboration with the different various persons that would be working with your child on communication, so everyone's speaking the same language and having the same goals in mind. And so we will definitely get that QR code out and appreciate that, as well as all the information on the website, and especially the audiogram. And I use that. My daughter's in middle school now, but I use those things as conversation pieces, especially when you can hear about the simulations of how they hear with my daughter's teachers, so they understand when she is in the classroom with the FM system and without, because of the listening bubble. And so those simulations help, and a nice, like you said, resource that people go to for trusted information. So thank you so much for that. And we appreciate you both sharing that information.